Okay, we're live. Hi, this is William Ramsey. Welcome to William Ramsey Investigates on today's show. This will be a part three of a series I've titled The Epstein Files Anatomy of a Cover Up, part three, like I said. And this will be streaming to my three YouTube channels, X, Rumble, and Substack now. And I will put in notes the best chat. Chat seems to be pretty busy these days. But reason for this episode is because yesterday, the New York Times Magazine published an article. And if you're watching this live, the title of the article, you can read it, is Inside the White House Freakout Over the Epstein Files. The president's top advisors gathered in a series of situation room meetings as they struggled to contain a scandal engulfing Donald Trump himself. And the timing is really incredible because the last cover up episode I did, episode 2, stopped right around kind of Trump and what he was doing last year in 2025. And what I did in this episodes 1 and 2, if you haven't listened to them, I suggest you go back and listen to them, is just try to establish a timeline of how these events happened. So I think it's important, and the public, I don't think, has a clear understanding. And I think this article actually moves forward to provide a clearer understanding. And it also is remarkable in the sense that it shows the enormity, like they're literally in a war room, a situation room. There's a lot of details in this article. The two authors, the two journalists, are Maggie Haberman and Jonathan Swan. And there's a forthcoming book, I guess, Regime Change Inside the Imperial Presidency of Donald Trump. And this is reporting done from that. And you can see the date right there, June 10th, 2026. All these dates are important. So I'll read a little bit here. I'm going to play this interesting article because I've also, I had this planned to do a part 3 with a lot of video about Trump. And then this came out and it just overlaps very well. So here's some of the old statements that he said to the public, which are very, very, very questionable veracity. And in episode 2, I was just telling the listeners how incredible the cover up was. And this article further expands on that. So I'll go into details on that. And first I'll play this one particular clip. I think we've all seen it, but it's important to memorialize this.
Why wait for Congress to release the Epstein files? Why not just do it now?
It's not the question that I mind, it's your attitude. I think you are a terrible reporter. It's the way you ask these questions. You start off with a man who's highly respected, asking him a horrible, insubordinate, and just a terrible question. And you could even ask that same exact question nicely. You're all psyched up. Somebody psychs you over at ABC. You're going to psych it. You're a terrible person and a terrible reporter. As far as the Epstein files I have nothing to do with Jeffrey Epstein. I threw him out of my club many years ago because I thought he was a sick pervert. But I guess I turned out to be right. But you know who does have? Bill Clinton, Larry Summers, who ran Harvard, was with him every single night, every single weekend. They lived together. They went to his island many times. I never did. Andrew Weissman, I hear. All these guys were friends of his. You don't even talk about those people. You just keep going on the Epstein files. And what the Epstein is a Democrat hoax to try and get me not to be able to talk about the $21 trillion that I talked about today. It's a hoax. Now, I just got a little report, and I put it in my pocket, of all the money that he's given to Democrats. He gave me none, zero, no money to me. But he gave money to Democrats. And people are wise to your hoax. And ABC's, your company, your crappy company, is one of the perpetrators. And I'll tell you something.
So why not just sign it now?
I think the license should be taken away from ABC because your news is so fake and it's so wrong. And we have a great commissioner, the chairman, who should look at that, because I think when you come in and when you're 97% negative to Trump, and then Trump wins the election in a landslide, that means obviously your news is not credible, and you're not credible as a reporter. So I've answered your question. You should go and look at the Democrats who received money from Epstein, who spent their time. Larry Summers was with him all the time. That creep, the fund guy, was with him all the time. What's his name?
Reid Hoffman.
Who? Reid Hoffman. I don't know Reid Hoffman, but I know he spends a lot of money on the radical left. Reid Hoffman, in my opinion, should be under investigation. He's a sleazebag. And those are the people, but they don't get any press, they don't get any news, and you're not after the radical left because you're a radical left network. But I think the way you ask a question with the anger and the meanness is terrible. You ought to go back and learn how to be a reporter. No more questions.
So there he is. You see the techniques. Blame somebody else, implicate somebody else, tell the reporter she's lousy. He mentions Hoffman, Summers, Clinton, all in the files. There's pictures of Hoffman with Epstein. Summers knows Epstein, in contact with him very frequently. Pictures of him together. He's right about that. But he's not mentioning the other people in his cabinet who are literal like core members of the Epstein network, aka Jared Kushner and Lutnick, as well as Trump. Trump knows him. There's actually something in the Epstein files. I'll see if I can bring it up maybe now, but it's I don't know if a lot of researchers have seen it, but it's really between Epstein and Summers where they're talking, and he says to Summers, I'm going to Mar-a-Lago, but it's 2018. This I don't know if people have seen this one. I wish I had the FTA file. I can't publish these things with the FTA file because it'll get ripped off. I'll get no credit. It's really mercenary out there in the journalistic world, so I can't do this. But this is real. This is from 2018, December 25th, Christmas of all days, right? The heat is turning on to Epstein at this time. The Julie K. Brown articles have been published, so he's talking about this. He does a lot of weird stuff on Christmas. I've got him like streaming on Christmas Eve and things like that. Streaming porn on Christmas Eve. He goes, I'm being asked for 3 names to replace Mnuchin. And then 4 days earlier, we'll call tonight or at some point. Will you be visiting Mar-a-Lago? That's from Summers. And then ask for 3 names to replace Mnuchin. Does that indicate to you that he's going to Mar-a-Lago? Because it does to me. Or he's been invited. So the connection is not 2005. These are lies. Like, these are contradicted by statements in the Epstein files. And that's the importance of the Epstein files that they see. They're always focusing on this list of perps and stuff, which is good, but it's not the whole story, guys. It's like there's a lot more. It's these kind of connections and stuff like that. But they're constant. Like, there's just you could do a Summers Epstein communication and things like that. But they had also, it's also interesting how some of this stuff gets redacted and some of it doesn't. Because in other emails, like this is a perfect example, they redact Larry Summers' contact information, but here's an EFTA where it's all there. Twitter, website, things like that. So this is where they say, this is from Jeff about Trump, 2017. Recall, I've told you, I've met some very bad people. None as bad as Trump. Not one decent cell in his body. So yes, dangerous. That's what he writes to Summers. Calls him dangerous. Like, that's EFTA 01055048. You can just go watch it. Go read it. But I wonder where's the Trump sons? I gotta find that email. It's really something else where he's like, oh, we're going. I was with the Trump boys. We're going in 2018. I just don't have it at the ready. Let me see. But it is something else. There's just so many connections and things, like pointing people to other things and so many other, just like the connections between Summers and Trump and what they talk about. It's really something else. This is Larry Vygotsky. So the whole story of like I got rid of him in 2005 is a story. Vygotsky Jeffrey. Hey Jeffrey, thanks for the update. Date LSJ, that's Little St. James. Trip is next Sunday, the 26th. Arrival departure. Jeffrey wrote, it seems like to him, at the moment we will go to LSH, Little Saint something, on Sunday the 26th, then to New York while I stay the week. Larry, it will be an I, and Trump is in town that week. So it seems like he's talking about Larry and Trump. 2017. Trump's in town. So maybe he didn't go there or whatever. Or, oh, here's the one. I found it. Take a screenshot of this. This is absolutely incredible stuff. This is another one. This is from Jeffrey. Boris Nikolic is Gates' right-hand man. This is from 2016, so the day after Christmas. Jeffrey to Boris. 4th, I'm in Palm with all the Trump boys. Fun. And then Boris had sent something to him earlier on Christmas. When are you back in NYC? It really starts like going from Jeffrey to Boris on Christmas. Hope you're having as much fun as me. So he's having a good time. He reaches out to Nikolic. Boris writes back to him on Christmas evening, the day of Christmas at 8:05. I wish. I got super bad cold 2 days ago and barely left my bed. Feel like SHIT. Merry Christmas to you. Jeff. No, Merry Christmas back, by the way. Jeff, when are you back in NYC? 4th, I'm in Palm with the Trump boys. Fun. So he's having fun with the Trump boys in 2016. Nobody asked those questions. They should. But let's read some of this article. I'll share some more videos. And this is really an extraordinary piece of information to read from. Again, Maggie Haberman, excuse me. And there are videos of these guys too. I saw it on the social media. They're talking about this article. And there's a lot of comments too, a lot of commentary from other podcasters or people in the alternate media. But here we go. This is like the timing of this stuff I covered in the cover up part 1 and 2. So I really recommend you watch those or see them on YouTube or Rumble or something like that. But here we go. On July 17th, 2025, at around 6 o'clock in the evening, President Trump's top officials filed into the White House Situation Room, the secure bunker where classified and high-stakes national security matters are discussed and decided. This is where President Barack Obama, along with Vice President Joe Biden, Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, and the president's national security team watched the raid that ended with the death of Osama bin Laden. So they're in a secure bunker, guys. Like this is like a war room type thing. However, Trump's most senior advisors had gathered without him to figure out how to gain some measure of control over a very different crisis threatening to engulf the presidency, the Epstein files. This is so important. This is from their perspective. The entire administration, what they're saying, or the top officials are working on a different type of crisis, and they're saying stuff in public, right? If I saw something, I would have prosecuted. You'll see that in the cover-up part 1 and 2. It's on my desk. And they're sending stuff out. 10 days earlier, the Justice Department and the FBI jointly released a memo. I think I actually went over this memo in part 2 that bluntly stated that the review had found no client list of powerful men. They put it in quotes. That's important. So these 2 New York Times reporters recognized that the client list itself was a bit of a mirage. It's not, it's important. And they've covered up the perps with these redactions, but the interlocking different emails are what's incredible about the Epstein files, what they show, and the code words. The guys who were doing the redacting didn't understand these guys are talking in code like a mob. Client list of powerful men for whom the notorious pedophile, self-admitted pedophile, calls himself a pedophile in the files. Jeffrey Epstein had allegedly procured underage girls and young women. Guys, it's way worse than that. intended to put to rest years of speculation and end the pressure campaign to release the voluminous material in the department's possession. One of the things that's important to remember, the pressure campaign bounced between both parties. If you remember, like I've stated this ad nauseum in the cover up part 1 and 2, that it was a core plank on the Trump's campaign for the presidency was to release the Epstein files. So then all the right wanted it. It wasn't a left thing. It wasn't a Democrat a concern as much, if I remember. I could be wrong, and correct me on that if I am. But it really was. I remember seeing it so much in the kind of right wing space and all these Bongino and guys talking about it, Patel. So then they got it. So then this pressure campaign was really from MAGA or the right. And then it flipped. Once they realized that they weren't going to disclose it right around July, right around they're talking about right now, July 25th, it flipped. And then Mike Johnson and the Republicans stalled for 4 months before the EFTA was passed with Massey and I think Green and the woman whose name escapes me now. Before they crossed party lines to get that passed. And it's just a world-shattering event. I mean, it's going to change the United States. There's another guy who wrote today about it that like this is a core issue for the entire country. This is not they're obviously downplaying it, but like this is a core issue of like this criminal network, which is still going on. Like you literally have a card-carrying member of the Epstein network trying to buy an island off the coast of Albania. This is on. Intended to put to rest years of speculation and the pressure campaign to release the voluminous material in the department's possession, right? Terabytes of files. The memo instead had the opposite effect, setting off a backlash that was notably loud among the MAGA base. So they're basically alienating the MAGA base that was told that's what they were going to get, is actually the investigation and investigation into the pedophile network. And it was about to get worse. The Wall Street Journal was preparing a damaging article about Trump's relationship with Epstein. The president's desperate attempts to kill the story had failed. So you see that right there. It's a Democratic hoax, right? And there's another one. Let me see if I can play that right now, because there's another kind of infamous one where he's here's the totally exonerated one. Like, I've been totally exonerated. This is video. It's audio, but it's worth your time, like, to just hear him talk. There's the other one that I have to seem to find. I'll see if I can find it, where he's with Bondi. He's like, "Excuse me, are you still talking about Jeffrey Epstein? Like, this is totally, a fabrication or whatever." He's doing something like that. Totally exonerated. Why is not showing up? Let me see if I can play it. I guess it's audio only. But let's see. I don't think you guys can probably hear this. Let me see if I can get that into a different format. But it is important. And I can probably bring it up as an audio file. But it's just like, I've been totally exonerated. He exonerated himself. Oh, here's another one. This is I don't understand why people are involved in this. But these are all important for historical purposes, really. Like, it's that important. Like, I don't understand why this Jeffrey Epstein thing hasn't gone away. Let's see. Here we go.
Understand why the Jeffrey Epstein case would be of interest to anybody. It's pretty boring stuff. It's sordid, but it's boring. And I don't understand why it keeps going. I think really only pretty bad people, including fake news, want to keep something like that going.
Now is the time for Congress to act. Epstein was not alone. Several prominent male executives resigned from their powerful positions after this matter became widely politicized. Of course, this doesn't amount to guilt, but we still must work openly and transparently to uncover the truth. I call on Congress to provide the women who have been victimized by Epstein with a public hearing specifically centered around the survivors. Give these victims their opportunity to testify under oath.
All right, so that's her famous, infamous speech. But here's the other one I meant to show. This is, I've been totally, so I don't understand. It's a Democratic hoax. And then here's, I've been totally exonerated. Well, to a certain extent, you have it because it was never investigated properly. Obviously, that's what these files show.
So Hillary Clinton said in an interview today that she and her husband are getting pulled into the Epstein matter to divert attention from you and that your administration has something to hide. What's your response to that?
I have nothing to hide. I've been exonerated. I have nothing to do with Jeffrey Epstein. They went in hoping that they'd find it and found just the opposite. I've been totally exonerated. In fact, Jeffrey Epstein was fighting that I don't get elected with some author, a sleazebag, by the way. And I've been totally exonerated. No, they're getting pulled in, and that's their problem. I don't know, they're going to have to see what happens. But I watched her in Munich, and she seriously has Trump derangement syndrome.
Do you think that she should publicly testify?
You know, I've been totally exonerated on Epstein, and it's really interesting because they've been pulled in. Think of it, they've been pulled in. Clinton and many other Democrats have been pulled in. Yeah.
Right, so there it is. It's the Democrats, guys. And this is February 16th, 2026. So that is fairly recent. Remember, the main or the final drop of the files was January 30th, 2026. It's a while ago, actually. It seems like fairly close, but it's just incredible stuff. So here's the Trump, like, you still talking about Epstein? This is another one to remember. Finally found it. Let's see. This is in front of Bondi. We'll find out in this article more about her.
Are you still talking about Jeffrey Epstein? This guy's been talked about for years. You're asking, we have Texas, we have this, we have all of the things. And are people still talking about this guy, this creep? That is unbelievable. Do you want to waste the time, and do you feel like answering?
I don't mind answering.
I mean, I can't believe you're asking a question on Epstein at a time like this where we're having some of the greatest success and also tragedy with what happened in Texas. It just seems like a desecration, but you go ahead.
Sure. First, to back up.
It's a desecration. The public didn't know what was in these files yet. They haven't found out. They're still getting more and more information. And you can, I don't know how many episodes I've done on the Epstein files, different aspects of it. I've done a lot. But let's go back to the reading. Let's see. Vice President J.D. Vance took a seat at the head of the table in the John F. Kennedy conference room of the Situation Room complex. This is a huge problem, he told the group. Arrayed around him were the White House Chief of Staff, Susie Wiles, the White House counsel, David Warrington, Press Secretary Carolyn Leavitt, Deputy Chief of Staff Taylor Budowich, Communications Director Stephen Chung, the Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche, who's now supposedly the acting Attorney General, Associate Attorney General Stanley Woodward Jr., the Deputy Chief of Staff James Blair, Attorney General Pam Bondi, and FBI Director Kash Patel joined on speakerphone. So they were all there. The vice president appeared panicked to others in the room about the way the subject of Epstein was already dividing the MAGA coalition. Some senior officials had the impression that Vance had bought into the darkest theories about Epstein and a cable of predators hidden within the country's ruling class. Guys, there is the darkest stuff in the Epstein files, and there is a cabal of predators. According to in my opinion, reading through the files, it is super dark. It's eyes wide shut, literal eyes wide shut connections. and permeates the culture, and his influence on the culture and art are there. And there was like this statement I found, somebody sent it to me, but it was by one of his victims. Her name was like Nina or Rena O H. She's Asian, and she like flat out says like the guy's evil. He's trying to like change the entire world. Let me see if I can find that. But it's an incredible statement. What she says out front, like at the beginning of this interview with TMZ. And let me see. And I think there's just more and more information. His scrying information, his occult connections. It's becoming more apparent that this guy is way, way beyond normal. Here, listen to this. This is Rena O. She's been verified. She was mentioned by Virginia Giuffre. Actually, in her not I don't know about the more recent book by Giuffre because I haven't read it, but the original biography that Giuffre had written that was in the Maxwell files, she's mentioned, not by name.
I was told by Jeffrey Epstein, Ghislaine's waiting for you upstairs in the bedroom and she wants to show you something. He immediately began brainwashing me. Had helicopters chase me, cars chasing me. Recently, I thought drones outside of my living room. I sincerely believe that this is what Jeffrey Epstein was truly doing here on this planet. He was bringing back hell on Earth.
Hey guys,
I sincerely believe that was what Jeffrey Epstein was doing on this planet. He was bringing hell on Earth. She knew him. This is verified. So she and Giuffre are verified. He's rest in peace, Virginia. Listen to that again. And she says this is 2 months ago, TMZ. She says she's still being followed or something's going on.
hey guys, it's Jackson with TMZ.
Let's go back here.
I sincerely believe that this is what Jeffrey Epstein was truly doing here on this planet. He was bringing back hell on Earth.
It's an incredible statement, guys, and it totally ties in with all the stuff I've been reading. It's just so dark, man. So this whole thing, like Vance had bought into the darkest theories. It's dark. It's super dark. It's like Crowley level dark. Oh, Wiles would tell the others that the vice president had proved himself to be a major conspiracy theorist. Well, they probably hadn't read the files either. And they're heavily redacted, guys. I've said it before. I'll say it again. There are 2.3 million files that are taken out by this. I mean, it's incredible that this guy's the acting attorney general. But Blanche, who's in on this call, he's mentioned here, flat out said in a recording that these files were taken out from the release because they involved death, torture, and child porn. So Wiles is like already covering up. Major conspiracy theorist. She also worked for Netanyahu. So those are connections that are also very dark. Another top official said later that Vance had been pounding on the Epstein issue since the release of the memo. I can bring that memo up. I haven't. Let me see if I can find that. And this is, I think, the memo they're talking about. But it's from an earlier, it's from the part 2 of this episode that I was talking about. But it's dated, so it's like, it's easy to put it as a time frame. If you look at this, go back at this document, I'm trying to contextualize what they're saying here. But this is July 17th, 2025. And this is the document that they're mentioning is this kind of like, we're done document. I read the whole thing in the last one. To this end, we have labored to provide the public with maximum information. No, you didn't. No, you didn't. You redacted so much stuff regarding Epstein and sure I'm pretty sure he's a cannibal. I'd say with 95% accuracy, he was eating people, and that means the people surrounding him might be involved in that too. Epstein ensured examination of any evidence in the government's possession. It is the determination of the Department of Justice, that's Bondi, and a Federal Bureau of Investigation, that's Patel, that no further disclosure would be appropriate or warranted. In my opinion, totally false. It's totally warranted. This is a core element of our entire society, and this is what they're talking about. see. He was privately pressing the administration to release all the Epstein files, everything in the Justice Department's possession. Vance had also floated to colleagues an extraordinary PR gambit that the White House enlist Tucker Carlson to interview Epstein's longtime girlfriend and co-conspirator Ghislaine Maxwell in prison. Wow, that would have been something else. It might help the president if Maxwell was willing to state that Trump had not been part of any wrongdoing with Epstein. Wow. These are incredible. Who's going to listen? I wonder if Tucker Carlson knows that. Vance told the group he believed all the files should be released as soon as possible. This is July 2025. It didn't all happen until the legislation was passed, right? EFTA, the Epstein Files Transparency Act. As soon as possible. He argued that Congress was going to force the release of the files eventually. It was already clear that a bipartisan coalition in favor of such action was forming on Capitol Hill. Right, so this is it. It's starting to come together. And the momentum was going in one direction. If the administration got out ahead of this and released everything voluntarily, including whatever material existed about the president, it would at least get credit for transparency. The alternative was to let the story drag on for months as information dripped out, each new revelation renewing the cycle of suspicion and fury. Better to rip the bandage off and move on. I guess that's their position. Even the unsubstantiated allegations and anecdotes about Trump should go out, Vance argued. They were going to surface regardless, and if the administration published them first, it would demonstrate good faith and take the oxygen out of conspiracy theories. Guys, people were talking about the Epstein perp list. They didn't know the totality of it. They had no idea, and the insiders know. But the people didn't know. They just wanted to know what was going on and what was suspicious. And I've done the shows about the MCC. Like I'm also 95% sure Epstein was deliberate. When he was arrested, they were going to murder him from the beginning on July 6th, 2019. Like that was the intent. Somebody was out to get him, and they put him in a jail within a jail, right? So it was in the special housing unit within the MCC. Which is like putting somebody in solitary where nobody in the general pop could see them, right? At this point in the meeting, I'm zipping through this. You can read the whole article. I'll put a link to it. I told you the title. You can just write the title into Google if you want to follow along. But I'm just trying to, provide commentary and contexts for this article. There's a lot. I mean, I'm providing a lot of commentary. That's the point. At this point in the meeting, Blair spoke up. With all due respect, the communication strategy of this group got us here. I don't know that it's going to get us out. If you're going to go in front of the press, you've got a lot of work to do. He began by asking pointed mock questions, demonstrating how difficult the news conference could be. This is so important because it's a lens into what's going on behind the scenes, behind the curtains, right? Is that these guys are interested. Former defense attorney Blanche, so he's literal former defense attorney. And then he lays out the options. Option was to petition the federal district courts in Florida and New York to unseal grand jury testimonies, the secret transcripts. As those were almost certain to contain no significant new information, everyone agreed that this option was a good idea, not only because the release was unlikely to damage the president. They're trying to keep from damaging Trump, and they already had that lame release for the this is July 2025. They had that lame release in February of 2025 with all those influencers, Cernovich and Posobiec, and those were already stuff that had been released. Like I knew within 2 minutes that it was garbage, like it was chicken feed. But so they were going to try to do it again. Under the federal rules of criminal procedure, the secrecy of grand jury materials is regarded by most federal judges as almost always inviolate, and the bar for any release is exceptionally high. If the courts refused to unseal them, as Blanche predicted, they would shift the blame for withholding the Epstein material away from the Trump administration and onto the judges. All the better if the judges had been appointed by Democratic presidents. Blanche's suggestion, let's see, what's it say? Make it appear that the White House wanted the materials released when it was almost certain not to happen. Let's see. Blanche offered to interview Maxwell himself, so he was going to do it. So they're wargaming and brainstorming this whole thing. Then they thought about giving Maxwell a pardon. So that was what the rumor was, is they were going to pardon her. And then several around the table spoke up. Pardoning Maxwell, a trafficker of young girls, would create a huge PR problem, Chung said. Of course it would. Blair was also adamantly opposed to a pardon. So they're against that. They were going to leave something on Truth Social. There's Wiles, James Blair. Key members discussing the crisis. Just then, the Wall Street Journal article they had been trying to kill was published online. Cell phones are forbidden in the Situation Room, so a staff member brought in printed copies of the explosive report. How they got all this information is something else. I don't know if that's disclosed in this article, which detailed how Trump and many others have created birthday cards and letters to be assembled by Maxwell in the special birthday book. Yeah, so that book came out. I can bring that up. Let me see. Trump birthday. That's what they're talking about here. So I do have that birthday card. Birthday book. I do. I mean, where is it? I don't know if I have. I can't believe that I have the. If I have the whole thing. I do have his will and testament, which is strange that he signed it 2 days before his death. This is from the birthday card. This is not what they're talking about, but this is literally in there. Somebody's redacted and they're saying he is the boyfriend of blank and we think he works for the CIA. So there's just all these things. He either works for the CIA, the Mossad, who knows? This is one of the other things, like another theme from Epstein that I've keyed into after looking through the files, is his interest in ballerinas and dancers. And this is one from his birthday card. Is this girl, she's in like a dance studio. It looks to me like what you'd see in a dance studio for dancers or ballerinas, where they have a lot of lockers. And it seems like this girl is in like this ballerina pose. So I guess that's one of his peccadillos, fetishes, whatever you want to call it. But it's there. I mean, this stuff is in there. But there's also a picture of in his mansion. I think I've gone over that in my Epstein DeviantArt thing, where he has like a sculpture of a girl's ballerina shoes or whatever. Like it's styled like a ballerina girl not pirouetting, but like doing something with her foot. But yeah, I don't know why I can't pop that up real quick. Let me see. Let's see, because I do have a picture of that somewhere. Anyway, I can't find it at the ready, but there is a picture. I can probably find it through Google, but it's Trump birthday card Epstein. See if I can find that picture. Oh, there it is. So here it is. This is a new article I haven't seen yet. This is from the Daily Beast, June 11th. That's the picture they're talking about in this New York Times article. Trump hit with blistering filing in Epstein lawsuit. The Wall Street Journal has responded to the president's latest attempt to sue the publication over his Epstein birthday letter. The Journal published this is the 11th. This is today. The Journal published a bombshell report July 2025, alleging that Trump had sent a graphic 50th birthday. We have the letter. It's in the files. Like you can see it. It was one of the things that was released in 2025. Compiled in 2003. Trump denied writing the letter and sued the Journal and its Rupert Murdoch-controlled parent company for $10 billion for defamation. I wasn't aware of that. It was thrown out in April for coming nowhere close to pleading actual malice. So he filed it. The court, however, left the door open for Trump to file an amended complaint, which the Journal has now responded to in a scathing motion to dismiss. Well, that might be worth reading. The filing argues that the new complaint does not remedy any of the defects in the court's dismissal order, and in fact compounds them by recycling allegations already rejected. This court held once that plaintiff failed to state a defamation claim against defendants. To show actual malice, Trump's reckless disregard. I mean, it has his name on it. That's his signature. Either that's fake or, I mean, it looks real to me. There's Blanche. So that's a recent article. This is May 28th. Trump calls in Ghislaine Maxwell. The president is drawing on Maxwell's testimony to prop up his refiled law. Okay. This is weird. Like, I don't know all these stuff. I got to download this. Anyway. There's been just so much paper going on around. Let's see. This one is interesting. A lot of these complaints have good factual data. Like, whoa, look at all this writing. Oh, yeah. So this is interesting. This has a lot of details about the whole thing. So lawyers and stuff like that. Interesting. Okay. Anyway, that's what they're talking about in this thing is the they're talking about that picture that we just saw. We're talking about it. There we go. Let's go. Anyway, this is all worth reading. There's a lot going on. Shouting, the president told Tucker, who's British, she must hate America. He told her he would file a lawsuit. Yeah, he's filing a lot of lawsuits, by the way. President posted again. It was clear he didn't like having to do it. I'm kind of zipping through this. I just only want this to go for an hour. I'm at 42 minutes. I'll check the. Let me see. Let me check the chat right now. Hey everybody, putting out a lot of content, guys. You can share this if you like. I did one earlier today on the new space capitalism. You can check that out. Hey John, Dystopian, how are you? That dude is a toxic snake. What are your thoughts on male Trump accuser Sasha Riley? I don't have any thoughts. I don't know. I've heard his name, but I don't know about that. All the representative Congress that oppose Trump, yes, they have. Like Massey's gone in a very suspicious race. Then I think Green quit, and now Trump went after the woman Boebert, and I think the other woman, from North or South Carolina, Mace is gone. I think she ran for governor and gave up her seat or something like that. So these are just absolutely crazy days. Trump's advisors were full of bravado. You've been on the Lex Friedman podcast. These are all important. They do a good job of getting details. He's on Lex Friedman. I'd certainly take a look at it. I have no problem with it. Private Trump later told Marjorie Taylor Greene Epstein material could hurt some of his friends. Growing frenzy among supporters. It came to propagating the Epstein files as evidence of a deep state capable of evil. Two podcasters were not to be outdone, Kash Patel and Jan Bongino. So they're keying into their statements among like all the stuff that they said. Their advisors. This is actually going through the cover-up. Some of the stuff I already went through, and they've got all their dates right. They've got all these people, the communications lineup of cabinet officials. This is the ridiculous thing that happened. This was February 27th. I went over that in my own coverage of this, the cover up. Bondi's staff started distributing the binders. The blood pressure of other officials in the room skyrocketed. They had no idea what was in the handouts. Wow. The Attorney General was distributing something she was calling the Epstein files that had not been vetted by anyone in the White House. Wow. One official opening the binder began flipping through the pages to see if Trump's name was mentioned anywhere. Right in the middle of the page, there it was. Keir Starmer was at the White House that day, so they hadn't vetted that. Wow. Bondly either grossly underestimated or simply been blind to the voracious appetite of the MAGA base for information about Epstein. So it's still there. Guys, I've had these incredible things on my social media. Like some of the pictures I've taken off had like views all over the place, and people I know saw them. Like they just popped up on their feed. Like really crazy stuff. A lot of vision because of the visual stuff. And I'm pretty sure there was one picture. I never got credit for it, but I found it out of the Epstein files of Epstein hugging a victim. But that picture went everywhere. Like it was crazy. One of the crazy things about that picture is who took the picture. One of the commenters was at an important point, like who's taking these pictures? Because there's a third party. It's who's taking the pictures of Epstein and Maxwell together, right? Because there's pictures of them together. Who's over there taking those pictures? Do they have a photographer? They don't look like professional pictures. But it is interesting that the pictures were taken. Justice Department officials were reviewing the Epstein material. 3 million pages of files related to Epstein, potentially as many as 6 million. In the early months, officials focused on going through a trove of what are known as 302 forms, records of FBI agents. So that was it. So they're in there. There is a trove. 4 months after the circus in the Roosevelt Room with the influencer. So that was the thing that happened. I didn't know it was the Roosevelt Room. So it's just the White House. I don't Sylvia Raychick, I guess is her name. This is Blanche. This is the acting attorney general. We've gone through the files, Blanche told Trump. There's not a lot there, a lot of child pornography. Obviously, we can't put any of that out. So he's telling Trump that. There are some mentions of you, but nothing substantive. Most of Trump's advisors have rejected out of hand the idea of releasing the FBI's raw interview notes. So that's what's coming in. That's what I explained in other shows. Goes back to Joffrey Berman and the original arrest, and there was also an FBI agent in New York whose name I can't remember, O'Reilly maybe. But they're like, if you have been abused, call this number. People called the number. The public never saw that, but the FBI had those records, and that's what they're talking about here. I guess these two are coming out with this new book, Regime Change Inside the Imperial Presidency of Donald Trump. Anyway, so overruled. There's Kash Patel. Inside the White House, Trump had no interest in releasing it. They keep using the term conspiracy theorists. Guys, there's millions and millions of files here. These are like facts and like data, just a massive data download. And I've talked about this in other things. This is like if they did this in a civil case and just dropped all these files on a adversary or an opponent in a civil case, they could get censured, or they could have something the court could take action to clean up the files because these were just dropped. Like there's no rhyme or reason to them. Like, okay, here's a file of the pictures, here's a file of this. They just use different data sets. They don't make a lot of sense. They may have at one point, like data sets 1 through 8 make sense, but 9 and 10 are vast. Like even the third party, like the people who took down stuff have not, to my knowledge, done a very good job of collating and categorizing all these files, which is hard. It is a difficult job. The man hours taken to look through that have to be off the charts, but still, like, this story is the real part of the story is so incredible. You just cannot even believe it. It's unbelievable. It really isn't good. Anyway, you should check out this article. There was another release. I think I talked about this other one, 300 gigabytes of evidence. Imagine the July 7th article I talked about. Bondi's looking pretty rough right there. She's looking tough. Looking at Trump. Surveillance videos. Oh, this is where Bongino gets angry. He showed up to a daily Justice Department meeting with the FBI staff. He was in a volcanic mood. As soon as he entered the room, he erupted at Bondi, shouting at her, "You effed this thing up from the start," he yelled. Bongino yelled. "The way you've been talking about this, that dumb effing charade with the Epstein files, they're on my desk nonsense. All the promises to the folks out there." Patel and Bongino both subsequently told the White House official that Bondi needed to resign. Wow, I haven't heard that. 2 days later, the two men were summoned to the meeting with Wiles and Bondi in the situation. So they're back at the Situation Room. Oh, was that it? This is before July 27th. When was this done? Binders was February 2025. When was this? This is a long article, by the way. July 7th, 17th. So Bongino was screaming at them before that on the 7th. Yeah, so there it is. The memo reaffirmed official finding that Epstein's death in 2019 had been a suicide. The video footage is totally baloney. People are staring at the wrong angle. Guys, it is so bad. What they released is so bad. They released an angle without showing that it wasn't the angle that showed Epstein's real door. And I think they led the public to believe that it was showing his door. It's not. The one that was really working, according to their own documents, the one that wasn't working would have shown his door. So you don't have the accurate. So people have gone over. I didn't see anything. There was 1 minute missing. Who cares? Who cares if there was 1 minute missing? Because it's not even the right video. It's not even the right video screen or what was taped. Less than 5 months after Bondi had referred to a secret client list of high-profile predators, the case was closed, or so it seemed. Oh, I already missed that. No, I'm not, Bongino said. This is not my plan. I'm not part of this going forward. Forget it. I'm out of here. He stormed out of the Situation Room and onto West Executive Avenue, where he climbed into the back of Patel's armored SUV and directed the driver to take him to FBI headquarters. Some of Bongino's close friends hoped he would resign right then. Then they intervened and made him stay. Interesting. It's a lot of drama. Wow. Bongino, the deputy director of the FBI, erupted at Bondi and Wiles as the political backlash grew, telling them, "I warned you guys about this the whole time and you ignored me." Privately, this is Bongino, according to this. He seethed. In conversations with confidants, he lamented what the job had cost him. Millions of dollars in podcast revenue, family time, his audience. Wow. He was getting torn apart over a strategy he'd opposed from the start. The relationships at the top of the Justice Department were now beyond dysfunctional. Wow. They believed that Bondi had leaked negative stories about them. Wow. Blondie effed this whole thing up, Bongino later told a confidant, echoing Loomer's derisive nickname for the Attorney General. She's the only one on TV saying over and over they had all this stuff. There was never anything. We were always clear about that. But now everybody thinks we did something wrong, and I gave up everything. Wow. It's all disappeared because people think we screwed something up with Epstein. Trump says, "Stop wasting time and energy on Jeffrey Epstein." This is from a Truth Social tweet. Somebody that nobody cares about. Oh, no, they don't. That's not true. They're still trying to figure it out. It's all being covered up. That's why you can't figure it out. Trump somewhat nonsensically called the Epstein case a hoax. Wow, I can see why this isn't a book. This is like 25 pages long. Looming subpoenas, Magasphere. After Todd Blanche, then Deputy Attorney General, interviewed Epstein's co-conspirator Ghislaine Maxwell, she was quietly moved into a minimum security federal prison camp. Wow. Vice President once again pushed to release as much of the Epstein files as possible. With an eye on the public messaging, he proposed that he should be the one to appear on Joe Rogan's influential podcast. Vance had gotten off, so Rogan's involved in this. Vance had just gotten off the phone with Rogan, and he later told others that Rogan said he wouldn't have Blanche on his show, but he would take Vance. Wow. So they're going back to Rogan. Oh, there's some lurid stuff in here. I don't want to go into it, but whoa. I would say page 23 is really something else. Yipes. Okay, this article. This is like a little mini book. Holy smokes. I mean, you guys got to read this thing. I'll put a link to it in the show notes. There's a lot of information. It kind of validates what I did in my episodes 1 and 2, which is nice. 2020 email, federal prosecutor told a colleague Trump had flown Epstein's private. Yeah, he sure did. I have that email. On January 2024, Trump declared he'd never been on the plane. Trump characteristically was creating his own reality. Wow. The final paragraph is the Epstein crisis had exposed something that some of Trump's closest advisors spent months refusing to see. The president could break institutions, redirect the federal government against his enemies, and bring the world's richest men into the Oval Office bearing tribute. But he could not, it turned out, make Jeffrey Epstein disappear. Wow. Well, I'll have to read that book, but that's quite an article. So let's see. Anybody else? Any questions? Everybody? I'm at the hour mark. Stuff's hitting the fan. It sure is. Nice to show us about it. Thanks. Yeah. I mean, the New York Times is, I mean, you'll see how similar my narrative is to theirs. Mini book. Yeah. I'll check it out. I'll put a link to it. I'll put a link to the article. Let me see if I can go back to the cover page. This has got to be a problem for them over at the White House. Inside the White House freakout over the Epstein files. That is part 3 for the Epstein files. Anatomy of a cover-up. And there will be a part 4. So there's a lot, slowly kind of coming out. But this is a remarkable thing, and probably will be a remarkable book once it's released, assuming it gets released. I mean, the way things are going, who knows what's going to happen. But anyway, I suggest you go back and listen to part 1 and 2. I'll put a link in the show notes as well as to this article. Thank you very much for listening.